and sprinkle it under your arms or in other various areas as a deodorant. You might even sprinkle a little bit in your socks. And not only will it kill the bacteria, it will actually add its own very pleasant, sweet, licoricey scent. So if you tend to have some very smelly feet, sprinkle a little powdered fennel in your socks and see how that works for you. And now it can also be used internally, and I would, for any of these internal uses, my general recommendation would be a tea. And for outside the body, you could use a tea. You could do a fomentation, which is just soak a cloth in the tea and put it on your body. You could do a poultice, but the fomentation would probably be a bit simpler. Or you could just take the powder and make a paste and put it on as a poultice. But pretty much tea or powder is what we're talking about. And it can be used as a tea to strengthen the libido or the sex drive in both men and women. So if your sex drive is flagging a little bit, first of all, as always, I want to look at why is that happening? You know, is there a blood flow problem? Is it stress? Is it a relationship thing? You know, let's look into why is it happening. But once we're addressing why it's happening, fennel can be a great way of getting back to normal in that area and supporting our health. And powdered fennel, sprinkled on the outside, is not only great as a deodorant, but can also help repel fleas for your pets. So if you don't want to have be putting pesticides all over your best friend and have him spread them throughout the house where your children play and give them cancer and him cancer and you cancer. And if you want to avoid that, a good way might be to sprinkle some fennel over Fido periodically. You know, maybe, I don't know, once a week. I would probably try it first. I've never really had a flea issue with my pets, but I would probably try sprinkling some on and rubbing it in their fur maybe once a week, or even add some fennel tea to their bath if you bathe them yourself. And you know, you can get creative with this and see how many different ways you can use it. And then Culpeper, one of our old-time herbalists, Nicholas Culpeper, used it as a diuretic, and that means to basically make you pee more, and also to help break up and ease the pain of kidney stones. Yes, there are natural ways of getting rid of kidney stones, and fennel is one of these herbs, and herbs like gravel root and hydrangea root also, and uva ursi, which is called also bearberry, those can all help break up and dissolve these kidney stones, along with drinking distilled water as your drinking water and apple cider vinegar. And those are a lot of things to think about. I also usually recommend some marshmallow when people have kidney stones, because when they start breaking up and coming out, they can be real painful. And if you've never had one, I've actually never had one, but I've known people who've had them, and they compare the pain of a kidney stone to the pain of giving birth. So it's a big deal. So I usually recommend some marshmallow root tea every day to soothe the area. It's an anti-inflammatory. It will actually go in and coat the urinary passages and inside the kidneys and inside the bladder and ureters and urethra, if you know anatomy. And if you don't, you won't know what I'm talking about, so don't worry about it. But it'll coat all those surfaces with demulcent substances, and that will soothe and be anti-inflammatory and will really keep the pain much lower than it would otherwise be and soothe. So that can help make the experience of getting rid of the kidney stones a lot less dramatic and traumatic. He also used a tea to get rid of hiccups. And there's a hiccup cure we don't hear about very much. And, of course, we can also use the antispasmodics like lobelia and skullcap and valerian and kava, things that soothe the nerves. Dr. Christopher actually got rid of a case of hiccups for one of his patients who had been having hiccups so bad that, you know, she was having trouble satisfying her body's normal needs, like food and water, and she had had the hiccups for so long that she was actually getting very sick and very weak, and she was, you know, people were really concerned about her, and she just couldn't get rid of these hiccups. So Dr. Christopher made a fresh, and this is So important. Fresh squeezed glass of orange juice from organic oranges. He just squeezed it right there and handed it to her. She drank that down and her hiccups were gone. And they didn't come back. And of course it has to be fresh squeezed right now. It can't be fresh squeezed yesterday. It can't be, well, the carton at the store says it was fresh squeezed when it was squeezed. You know, I don't know how you squeeze something not fresh, but you know, they always say fresh squeezed when it's in a carton and many days old, and I don't know how they can get away with that, but it was fresh when they squeezed it, and so it has to be fresh right now, right before you drink it, in order to work. And that's one of the things that Dr. Christopher used, but you can also try Fennel, and it's a soothing, relaxing herb that can, in many cases, help relax those hiccups away. And Culpeper also used it to cleanse the liver, gallbladder, and the spleen, as well as for gout, which is similar to arthritis, but different, and shortness of breath, and also, in his words, to, quote, make people more lean. So he actually used it for weight loss. So